So for my neo-imperialism topic, I chose to focus on the hog farms in North Carolina. These hog farms have been getting multiple lawsuits against them about how they treat the pigs and how they affect the residents in North Carolina that live around them. And I just wanted to personally see how big the problem was. So I went to Albertson, North Carolina, and interviewed one of these hog farmers. His name is Morris Murphy. And he took me around his farm and just showed me how he disposed of the waste and how he treated the pigs.
All right. So first question, what's the one thing that prevents you from being able to completely dispose of the waste in an environmentally protective way?
The one thing, well, nothing really does that I think, but the biggest handicap would be just rainfall, excessive rainfall, would hinder you. You know, we try hard not to apply when it's over wet. But I said this year has been extremely challenged with extra 40, 50 inches of rainfall, and most of that occurred in the last half of the year, so that's the biggest challenge probably.
And so how have farmers been able to reduce like the pollution recently with new technology coming out and scientific research?
Well, there's new technology coming out as far as, and you're talking specifically about hog lagoons. You know, there's talk of covers. The research is not there yet to say that every farm needs to have a cover over it. It also has its challenges. Anaerobic lagoon, you know, works anaerobically without a cover. When you cover it, that changes that a lot. So you have more nitrogen content than you had before. So that's a bigger challenge in the land that you need to apply it on. So, I mean, there's been technologies made just in the way that you feed animals. When I built my hog farm, it was based on the amount of hogs I've got a permit, and it's based on the amount of waste I produce. Better feed qualities, better research on feed has reduced the amount of manure that it takes to grow up, that you would have when you grow a pound of meat. And I don't know what percentage that is. I think I've heard it somewhere close to 50% reduction in that, you know. So that's just a better, and that's genetics, but just in a lot of feed values and understanding how feed stuff works.
Yeah. And how have the nuisance lawsuits affected you and your farm?
It's not affecting me as far as the way I farm. It's made all of us more aware, which is if there's any good thing that comes out of anything, you know, it's maybe a good thing, because you can always do. And there's nobody, I don't care what you do, that you can always do a better job of what you're doing. That's just a fact of life. You know, me personally, the only thing, it just, you know, it's affected me personally as far as that. Actually, the guy in the second lawsuit case was a good friend of mine. He's down in Beulah, which is about 20 miles away, but we've known each other for 40 years. So it's affected me, and I've seen him. His farm has been actually right now he's out of the business because a negative verdict in the case. So he's actually essentially out of business, and the farm's been there 30 years. And so.
So I just want to ask, is there a way, or like, how do you ensure that your hogs or pigs have like a humane life before they're killed to feed like North Carolina, because there's so many?
And that depends on how you. Some people want to characterize a humane life. They're very well protected and cared for.
Yeah.
I mean, they're in buildings, you know, and some people say maybe it's not humane life to have them confined, but they're in confined buildings. We just went through in September 14th, one of the worst hurricanes we've ever experienced. We were out of power here over a week. No running water, no power. My hogs never experienced one day of it. They had power, they had feed and water, they had shelter. So they actually fared better than we did. You know, they never knew, other than the sound of the storm, they never experienced a thing of what was going on. Yeah, my horses actually probably fared worse than the hogs did, you know, because they were inside. So I think I mean, we take care every day. We're in the buildings every day. And you monitor each pen, pretty much each pig separately. I mean, they're in groups of 20, 25 to the pen. But if a pig is falling back, falling back just don't feel good, you'll separate them out in a single pen by itself.
Okay.
You may vaccinate individually. You don't do mass vaccinations. You know, it's one that's falling back. Just like I say, I was sick last week myself with the flu. So you know, but so we kind of we'd isolate them like you would, like I've tried to stay away from anybody. We're trying to isolate them a little bit, and like I said, then if something falls back, then you have a euthanasia process that you try to do humanely, and that's just part of it too. You know.
All right. So Governor Roy Cooper vetoed a bill last year, and it limited the ability to file a lawsuit against local farmers such as yourself. Does that make you feel like a local government is against you?
Don't get me started talking about Roy Cooper. Yes, it does. We are very, very fortunate we're in Duplin County. In Duplin County, we have two of the best in the Senate and in the House that stands for farmers. They were the ones that introduced the bill.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's very disheartening to see somebody like Roy Cooper not stand behind farmers and try to do what he can to, you know, farming, agriculture in North Carolina is at $87 billion. I think it's right.
Something like that, yeah.
You know, the hog industry alone is like $11 billion. You would think that they would try to support it as much as they could.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, because it's not saying that that particular bill is not saying that if somebody does something wrong and not going by the rules and guidelines that the state themselves have set up, that they cannot be sued.
Mm-hmm.
It's just saying you can't do these frivolous lawsuits. Just like I said a while ago, we're sitting here within a few thousand feet of, with probably 18,000 head of hogs, so neighbors around. And these lawsuits, the neighbors are about the same distance away, and they say they can't enjoy their life.
Yeah.
I mean, you see a playground behind us right now. We got horses. There'll be some folks today. If we get out time, we'll see some folks riding horses down my farm.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so the lawsuits are, in my opinion, are frivolous. So that's what it was trying to protect. You know, not somebody that's doing something wrong, but somebody that's trying to protect people doing things right.
Mm-hmm. And last question: is it ultimately down to government legislation and scientific advancements, or do we have the ability to fix like the pollution now? So do you think it needs to advance more, or can we do something?
Well,
about
like
it
I said to start with, I think there's always room for improvement.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I really don't believe that my farm is a major polluter.
Yeah.
You know, we all as humans are polluters.
Yeah.
You know, so to say that I don't pollute, no, I'm not going to say that. You know, but we take great care and try not to the practice we do to do a good job.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, we'll look at that. I'll show you where we apply it, and you can look at I got the good example right where we apply the manure and how the grass is greener right there, and we plant things to utilize the nutrients.
Mm-hmm.
And then shortly after, away from that where it's not applied, it's not as green. So that shows me that's not, the runoff is not like they said. You would see green streaks running down and stuff. We can walk right, look at this ditch right here, you know, it runs right through the hog houses. It's clear, pristine water, you know. So, but getting back to your original point, yeah, there's technology that probably could, there are technologies out there that are trying to improve and do a better job. Duplin County is the largest pork producing county in the United States. And to say that, you know, that it may not be it's not potentially a problem. It's probably kind of vague to say that.
Yeah.
But I don't believe that it's a problem that everything's got to be changed, turned upside down 100%. You can always do a better job. And like I say, awareness has been the most I've seen just in my lifetime as a farmer, and even in the hog business. And not changing the way we do it, but just having better awareness of what I am doing.
Mm-hmm.
Has made me a better farmer, I think, you know, a better steward.
Yeah.
And I would actually like to throw in another question. Are there any farmers who try to cut corners and try to do the easy way out instead of going the right way and doing the environmentally friendly way? And does that hurt your reputation?
Like I said again, in the industry, you have some that try to take the shortcuts. Like I said, it's been a very challenging time this year with the amount of rainfall we've had. I think most of those folks have been eliminated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The integrators will not stand for it. We keep records of rainfall, lagoon levels. If your lagoon gets so high, they'll come pull the pigs off the farm. You know, they're not going to let you keep raising pigs if you're not doing like you're supposed to. So, I mean, they're your watchdog. I think farmers themselves are doing a better job of being each other's watchdog. I would not let a neighbor of mine, if I saw him, I would not, you know, first off, I would go to him and say, look, I saw something the other day you were doing that may not be quite right. You know, I wouldn't turn him into some official stuff because I don't know of anybody, I don't know of any farmer person just going to deliberately say, I don't care, I'm going to do my own thing. But some people may not have the awareness that they should, and not doing them blatantly. They're not going to pump in straight to the creeks or the rivers, but they just, you know, we all, and like I said, in the industry, anything as humans, we all need to do a little better job helping each other. We all got to live in this world together. Like this farm, we're talking about hog farms. This is a hog farm, but we also grow a lot of crops. So I've got to protect the soil here and the water here, and I'm doing what I do for future generations. So it would be kind of ignorant on my part not to try to protect for future generations.
Thank you for meeting with us.
All right, thank you.
So while I was at the hog farm, Mr. Murphy was really open about everything that he did. He didn't try to hide anything. He took me to the lagoon and the hog pen after we interviewed him. He let me take pictures and videos and all that. And I just wanted to look at this from a political point of view. So I took one of the most conservative people I know. I took one of the most liberal people I know. And I showed them a video that we saw in class to give them a little bit of background information. And I asked them the same exact questions on the video. And I just wanted to see how their responses differed from each other. What was your initial reaction to the video?
All right, initial reaction certainly is disgust. You've got ponds or lakes full of fecal matter. It's disgusting to think about. They're spraying it, taking that information at face value. It's pretty ugly.
Okay, how would you solve the waste problems that these farms have?
So I think one, you have to make sure that you're defining that it is a problem. And so watching one video and hearing one or two interviews in that video, I would not jump to the conclusion that what they are saying is 100% reliable. I'm not saying that it's not reliable, but I would want to dig deeper into the stakeholders. So talk to the EPA, talk to other subject matter experts, make sure that you're getting balanced information, and then come to that conclusion.
Okay. Do you think these types of farms should even be able to exist based on how they treat the pigs?
So not knowing how they treat the pigs is a hard question to really answer intelligently. So looking at that video, they're basically saying that they have pigs that are locked up and then later slaughtered. I don't have a problem with that. I think that if we're going to eat meat, then we're going to have to kill the things that we eat. How we kill those things is humane, should be humane, of course, but simply having large stocks of animals and then later slaughtering them for food is unfortunately a way of life.
Okay. These farms are how North Carolina gets the majority of its pork. If we were to crack down on this issue and stop these farms, the price of pork would increase greatly everywhere in the state, and many of the farmers would lose their jobs. Do you think that fixing this problem is worth all of that?
So I think we won't have to go back to, is it a problem? So I'm not acknowledging that it is. I'm not saying that it isn't. But if the question is it better or worse to, is the farmer's well-being the primary issue? And I'm not sure that it is. An example would be tobacco farmers. So tobacco farmers years ago harvested all their crops for tobacco. When the tobacco when the harms became like known for smoking, what happened was the government actually bought the land back from the farmers and created subsidies for those farmers. And so the farmers then were incentivized to grow other crops. And so tobacco farmers then became, fill in the blank farmers. So the farmers, I suspect, will be just fine. The real question is, how do we actually handle the food supply of the hundreds of thousands of people that are currently relying on cheap meat?
All right. So what was your initial reaction of the video?
That I really don't want to eat pork again.
Okay. How would you solve, or how do you think you could solve the waste problems that these farms have?
I think there are alternative methods to disposing of the hog waste. Read about some that small family farmers are using that don't involve spraying the feces in the air. They don't involve huge lagoons that could, overflow from floodwaters. So I think there are alternative options to getting rid of the waste that some of the larger companies may not use because of cost or just ease because of the size.
Okay. Do you think that these types of farms should even be able to exist based on how they treat the pigs?
No, I think there need to be some controls over the size of them, because really it's the mass producing farms that cause the most problems. So the smaller family farms seem to be able to control the issues and treat the animals better and treat the environment better.
These farms are how North Carolina gets the majority of its pork. If we were to crack down on this issue and stop these farms, the price of pork would increase greatly everywhere in the state, and then many of the farmers would lose their jobs. Do you think that fixing this problem is worth all of that?
Yes, I do, because I think that the human condition and our environment is more important than the production of pork. So farmers have evolved over time, over centuries, to accommodate their needs and produce other crops or make adjustments. So I think that there are alternatives that should be considered, especially since a lot of foreign companies and countries are coming into our state and really manipulating the way that these farmers have to work.
So as you can see, both were pretty disgusted by the video, but the conservative, on one hand, he wanted to make sure it was an actual issue first. He didn't want to rely on one source for his information. He knew that there are always two sides of the story, so he wanted to know the farmer's point of view before making a judgment. And he didn't really have a issue with killing all these pigs for pork. He said he would still eat the meat. And he said the farmers will be fine and that they'll find other ways to make money if we crack down on this. But his main concern was how the hundreds of thousands of people in North Carolina who rely on cheap meat, how they would be affected by the price increase of pork. On the other hand, the Liberals said there is a problem and that we can adapt to it. Her main point was the size of each farm. She said that if we cut down on size, then we wouldn't have as much waste. There would be more room for the pigs to roam around and have a better life before they're killed for pork. And she said that correcting this issue is much more important than the production of pork, and that the farmers should be able to adapt and be able to fix this issue. I believe that these hog farmers, are widely misunderstood. There are multiple reports on them that are not credible. He was telling me, Mr. Murphy was telling me while I was there, that he came across this article about hog farms and personally called the writer. And he invited the writer down. In the article, the writer said that the hog farms were a nuisance and that they affected the residents and they treated the pigs badly and all that. So he personally called the writer and he said, "Why don't you come down to my pig farm I can show you around, show you how well I treat the animals, show you how it doesn't even smell that bad. And he asked the writer if he had actually been to a hog farm, and the writer said no, he hadn't. He just gets his information from other sources. So he tried to invite him down, and he wouldn't come. But then one day, while Mr. Murphy was in court, he saw this writer, and he went up to him. And he's like, "Hey, do you recognize me?" And the writer's like, "Oh yeah, you're Mr. Murphy." And he's like, and Mr. Murphy said, "I'm personally inviting you right now to just come with me to my hog farm, just see how it is." And he accepted. And when they got to the farm, the writer was in shock when they were standing on top of the lagoon just like I was, and couldn't smell anything. He could only smell the pigs while they walked past their pens, and the smell was not overwhelming. It was not bad at all. People could definitely live in the same area as that hog farm and not be affected by it. So I think that really just put him in his place. And if we just looked at the issue from a farmer's point of view of actually living on the farm, working with the pigs and taking care of them, and showing how to properly dispose of the waste, that the people of North Carolina and the people that live around the hog farms, they would recognize that it's not an issue. Thank you for taking the time to watch my video. I hope you can see both points of view from each side of the situation and not rush to any conclusions before you make a judgment.